Just a couple weeks ago, we went down to the Florida Keys to monitor some of our outplants from the previous year and the year before, so the last 2 years. And we were going to check on them just to monitor their growth, but we also wanted to see how they were doing after the recent heat stress in the Florida Keys this year. With our outplants, we saw more survival than we expected. We really didn't have high hopes going into this because of how bad the heat was this year. Earlier in July, we went down and saw some heat stress in wild colonies, and our colonies were doing okay, but they had a lot of time after that they were exposed to heat, which is a big factor for coral bleaching and survival.
When you see a dead coral, it's typically going to be white or tannish, depending on how much algae has grown on top of the dead skeleton. Versus the living coral, you're going to see the living coral animal with color, with its little tentacles coming out of its mouth, and you can see them kind of waving in the water as the current's going by, looking to catch particles that they can use to eat, going through the water column.
Past year was a really exciting and tough year. We outplanted over 700 corals, genetically unique individuals of grooved brain coral, symmetrical brain coral, and knobby brain coral this past June. Outplanting the corals in June was kind of a whirlwind adventure, but we got everybody out, and then in July we were doing some monitoring, and then quickly, the end of July, we kind of realized it was the hottest year on record, and we were seeing unprecedented bleaching and die-off of wild colonies, of other outplants, other partners. So during some of our monitoring trips for our coral outplants, we were also looking at some of our other older previous outplants and watching and progressing and trying to monitor to see how they were doing in relation to some of the wild colonies. So overall, the survivorship was about 70%. Probably the grooved brain coral had a little bit higher survivorship, and the symmetrical brain coral did quite well also. And even though all these corals were maybe only like 1 inch to 3 inches in diameter, they actually held their own pretty well.
When we went to our first site, which was our recent outplants from this past spring, summer, we got down to the bottom of the reef and we're searching for our plots. And I did not expect to see many corals alive, but we got down there, the corals were alive, they had good color, and I turned around to Rachel and I started shaking my hands and dancing underwater, and just excited to find the living corals after the heat stress of the summer that the Florida Keys experienced.
On some of the plots, we were along a sandbank, and we saw a big southern stingray, which was really cool. I'd never seen one in the wild before in the Keys. I also saw a couple bonnethead sharks on our last dive, so there was a lot of other life around. Despite some of the corals not looking so great, there were still a lot of urchins and little critters crawling around on the reef that was cool to see.